Every bureaucracy has a favorite word, a word they like to use like a shield when things go sideways. At Portland Public Schools, that word is structural, as in we have a structural deficit, as in the structural reality of inflation and enrollment declines forced our hands. It makes the $56 million budget shortfall sound like a weather event, an act of God. A sudden, unpreventable storm that just happened to blow away 87 classroom teachers and counselors right at the end of the school year. But if you look past the district's slickly produced infographics and the carefully worded press releases, you find a very different story. You find a story of predictable traps, administrative bloat, and a financial gamble that critics say the district knew it was losing for years. Today we're looking at the Portland school budget crisis, not through the lens of the district's PR department, but through the eyes of the critics who saw this cliff coming from a mile away.
From Seattle to Los Angeles, this is Left Coast News. No apologies, just the truth.
Let's start with the original sin of this entire meltdown, the COVID funds. Back in 2020 and 2021, the federal government flooded school districts with hundreds of millions of dollars in ESSER grants. It was a historic lifeline, but it came with a massive blinking warning label. This money is temporary. It expires in September 2024. Basic financial literacy tells you that you don't buy a mansion on credit if you only have a job for 6 months. You don't fund permanent recurring expenses like salaries, benefits, and long-term programs with a one-time cash injection. But that is exactly what PPS did, and many other school districts. They used temporary relief money to build up a permanent baseline of operations. Critics and independent fiscal watchdogs warned them. They said, you are building a funding cliff. When September 2024 hits, the federal credit card gets declined, and you're going to free fall. And yet, leadership kept spending right up to the edge of the drop. Now the district points to the empty vault and blames expired federal funding. Critics call it what it actually is, catastrophic fiscal management. But it's where they chose to cut that has teachers and parents furious. Now, if you ask the administration building in Portland why this is happening, they'll tell you they are on an island dealing with a localized storm. But critics say that's just a convenient distraction to avoid accountability. The truth is, Portland isn't an island. It's just one car in a massive regional multi-train wreck. Look across the Pacific Northwest right now, and you'll see the exact same script playing out in district after district. Just across the Columbia River, Vancouver Public Schools is choking on a $24 million deficit for the upcoming school year. Their solution? Slashing nearly 200 full-time jobs. And just like Portland, 2/3 of those cuts are happening directly inside school buildings, targeting coaches, mentors, and specialists. Drive an hour south down I-5 and Salem-Keizer Public Schools is starting down its own $25 million budget hole. That's on top of a massive $70 million reduction they had to make just 2 years ago. They are desperately trying to avoid a catastrophic reduction in force layout by freezing vacant jobs. But Superintendent Andrea Castaneda openly admitted to the community what this actually means. Ballooning class sizes for middle and high schoolers and an all but certain promise of even more cuts next year. Every single one of these school boards is giving the exact same presentation. They project the same PowerPoint slides showing declining enrollment. They give the same speeches about the rising costs of employee benefits, healthcare, and state pension programs. But critics say using the broader regional crisis as an excuse is gaslighting. The fact that everyone made the same reckless gamble with COVID money doesn't make it a smart bet. Oregon Department of Education data reveals that since 2020, the state's education workforce climbed by nearly 17%, largely fueled by temporary federal cash, while student enrollment actually slid by 3%. School boards across the region treated a temporary pandemic windfall like a permanent raise, using it to inflate their payrolls and expand administrative frameworks. Now the bills come due, and from Portland to Vancouver to Salem, the response from superintendent offices is identical. Protect the core bureaucracy, call the disaster structural, and let the classroom teachers and students absorb the impact. And like I said, this isn't just a Washington, Oregon problem either. San Diego Unified, $170 million budget deficit. Chicago Public Schools, $400 million budget deficit. Seattle Public Schools, $100 million budget deficit. Active plans to consolidate and close up to 21 elementary schools. Los Angeles Unified School District. The shortfall they're facing is an impending $1.6 billion with a B structural deficit as it projects toward the next couple of fiscal years. Broward County Public Schools in Florida. The shortfall they're staring down is a $90 million deficit. And the reality there, Broward County is handling its shortfall by eliminating roughly 1,000 positions. While 700 of those were already vacant, 300 employees are facing direct layoffs, heavily targeting instructional specialists and student mental health support roles. To find more cash, the district took the controversial step of slashing employee health coverage for expensive GLP-1 weight loss medications, highlighting how modern inflationary healthcare costs are hitting school bottom lines. The national pattern, according to education finance data from Georgetown University's Economics Lab, the average U.S. school district is having to cut roughly $1,200 per student in spending to adjust to the post-pandemic reality. The districts hitting the wall hardest are universally those that use temporary federal lifelines to fund permanent payroll raises and administrative frameworks. When a family budget gets tight, you cut the subscription services and the luxury items before you stop buying groceries. According to the Portland Association of Teachers, the school district did the exact opposite. While classroom educators, specialized reading teachers, and mental health counselors were getting handed layoff notices, critics pointed out that central administration building remained remarkably top-heavy. We're talking about an ecosystem of chiefs, directors, and supervisors whose daily work never touches a student. Even worse, while teachers were being cut, spending on third-party vendors and outside contracts actually ballooned. The school board had to actively step in and pause massive expensive contracts for things like generative AI learning platforms and standardized testing software. Contracts administrators were pushing through while planning to lay off staff. The union's argument is simple. The district prioritized its own management structure and corporate vendors over the actual human beings teaching your kids how to read. And then there's the sheer ugliness of how these layoffs went down. The district's contract states that layoffs are based on seniority. Fair enough. But the administration used a technical loophole that blindsided the community. They calculated seniority by strictly excluding any years an employee spent working for the district before they joined the formal teachers union bargaining unit. Think about that. If you were a dedicated district employee who spent 10 years moving up the ranks and then transitioned into a certified counseling or classroom role, the district's math wiped your slate clean. You were treated like a day one hire. Educators who dedicated over a decade of their lives to Portland kids were let go via abrupt notifications right as the final school bell rang for summer. The union has filed an emergency class action grievance, calling it a blatant violation of procedural terms and a gut punch to morale. Look, no one is arguing that running a school district in 2026 is easy. Enrollment is down, the state's funding model is broken, even state leaders admit they don't fully fund the true cost of education. And the aftermath of the 2023 teacher strike certainly sped up the bleeding. But there is a difference between a financial crisis caused by bad luck and a financial crisis caused by bad choices. By leaning on temporary cash, protecting administrative bloat, and treating veteran staff like numbers on a spreadsheet, critics argue that PPS didn't just stumble into this $56 million hole. They dug it. And now the kids are the ones sitting at the bottom of it. If you made it this far, you're exactly the kind of person we built this channel for. Left Coast News exists to cut through the noise and bring you straightforward analysis of the stories shaping Washington, the Pacific Northwest, and beyond. If you found this video valuable, please subscribe and follow us wherever you get your content, including YouTube, Rumble, Brighteon, BitChute, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, X, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. If you'd like to help support independent journalism, you can also join us on Patreon. Patreon is free for now. You'll find the link in the description below. And if you think this story matters, share it with your friends and family. That's one of the biggest ways you can help this channel grow. Now I want to hear from you. What do you think? Do you agree with this analysis, or do you see it differently? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching Left Coast News.